Morning. My name's Nick. This is Otto the Garden Cat, my co-star, and this is the Tieto Permaculture vlog. Out here today, we're gonna actually do some seed starting in the little mini greenhouse that is not looking so great right now. I'll show you that in just a minute. But I actually make my own seed starting mix, and I'm going to show you guys how I make that and what I use. And also I use this soil blocker instead of having to use those really kind of flimsy plastic trays or anything like that and continue to add plastic to everything. This soil blocker allows you just to take the actual material that you're using to start the seeds in itself and get some seeds started, and it's just a little block. So we'll take a look at that in just a little bit, and other than that, let's just get started. Quick little rain check. We got a lot of heavy rain last night, and it looks like just about 0.4 inches, about 10 mils of rain. That was probably all last night, but the majority of it was probably only in about maybe a half hour, 45-minute downpour. So quite a bit of rain came through. It's just a little squall coming off the coast, just a bunch of moisture coming off the Atlantic. So nothing too big, but nice to have rain so we don't have to worry about watering. Otto's enjoying it. He likes to lick off the dew off of the grass when it has a lot of rain like this. So always fun to watch him out here the next morning, because he gets pretty into licking the grass, as you can start seeing. He's thinking about it right now. Quick little update on this fencing. So far it's working. The Henry's gotten out I think once or twice since I put this up. But we are starting to see more and more little seedlings. It'll be kind of hard for you to see them because they're so small here. But in this pen, you can see everything is still growing. That's the goal, right? We actually have decent growth through the whole bed here. It's everything's starting to come up. It looks like the cilantro is starting to kind of peek its head out too. So fun to see that coming up, and we'll just keep monitoring it. Nice to know that this little mini temporary fencing is doing its job, keeping out the chickens when they do get out, so we can have some produce to come in the future. I'm just going to quickly get to the chickens and feed them, and then we're going to start right away on the seed saving. So it should be pretty quick. For those who watch my regular videos, sometimes I take many minutes to get there. Hopefully it'll be a little less than that today. Hi, hey guys. All right, chickens are fed, and we're gonna start heading down to work on the seeds here. So I'm just gonna get everything prepped and ready so we can just kind of move forward with this and not have to keep stopping while I find things. So bear with me for just a few minutes and we'll get started. All right, I think I got everything ready for us so I can show you the basic how-to and also the whole process, so we can go right through from beginning to end. So first step, of course, is to make the mix. So this is already pre-made, and this bucket is too. So I already have these guys kind of ready to go, so it's just easier today. But I'm going to go ahead and walk through how I do this, just so you know. The two main ingredients that I use for my potting soil, and this is for soil blocks, for regular potting soil, for tree potting soil, etc. It's just it's a differential of a mix of two things. Number one is compost, or at least pretty organic material of some sort. Ideally, it's compost. That's what I'm going for. This is actually older compost that actually came from now right below where the chickens scratch down. So this is where the compost is kind of made. It moves down the slope, and then they scratch excess through the fence. It kind of filters it a little bit, and then I take it from right here and I use that. That's not going to be super active because it's been a while since I've had a compost pile. So active compost is a little bit better, just because you have all those microbes in there that can instantly interact with those seeds, and as the roots start, they can already start their interaction. So it's ideal to have nice, good finished compost. That's number one. But whatever you can use. In this case, it's kind of oldish compost. And then the second thing is river sand. So you can get this from pretty much anywhere in the world that you go. You can see there's some pretty big clumps in here. So I don't really want these big rocks, so we're going to have to do one more step, which has something to do with that screen right there. But what you want is just kind of really fine, kind of grainy sand. You don't really want silt. You want more of like the grainy, really small kind of stuff like that. The small little pebbles, that's fine. Basically in a potting mix and for these soil blocks, what you're looking for is a balance between drainage and moisture retention. That's the two things you really want. You don't want so much good high quality stuff that the seed's just not going to want to produce roots. You want them to produce as many roots as you can if you're seeding, so that they have a nice strong robust root system before you put them in the ground, right? So you need to have a balance between the organic material that's going to provide the nutrients, in this case the compost, and the stuff that's going to add the drainage. In this case I'm using sand. So pretty much you can make compost anywhere in the world. You can find river sand anywhere in the world, as long as you're near a river at least. And if you're not using kind of river sand, kind of builder sand, sharp sand, you want the really stuff that really is like makes a nice noise, like nice gritty noise when you rub it between your hands. You don't want like the fine beach sand or anything like that. The key is this is adding drainage, so you don't want tiny particles, you want kind of bigger particles. So when these two things are mixed together properly, you get a mix kind of like this here. So you can see there's plenty of sand in there still. You can see the little pebbles, little tiny pebbles. I don't mind so much. They're just going to kind of provide a little bit of excess drainage in there, and that's okay with me. And that's kind of the mix that we're going for. So you can change the mix based on what you're actually planning to plant, what seeds you're using. So for really fine seeds, you kind of want a more sand mix. So you might do 90% sand, basically sifted sand, sieved sand, and then 10% compost. For trees, they want something that's a little bit more robust in organic matter. Just think like forest floor. What are you going to find in the forest floor? Lots of like dark, rich humus if it's a really nice, rich ecosystem. So for that, you want more of a compost mix. So for trees and everything, I tend to do about 50% compost, 50% sand. So it's going to give enough of that nice high quality ingredient of the compost to get those trees started and get their root systems established with all those microbiota down there that's in the compost. And then the sand is just going to provide that drainage. It'll be a little bit wetter because the more organic material you have, the more moisture holding capacity you're going to have. For smaller seeds, you don't really want them to rot too quickly or anything like that. You might do less organic material. Again, the organic material is what's going to hold the moisture, and the sand is what's going to provide the drainage. So you're balancing those two things based on what you're planting. And this is something you can just experiment with. There's no like one size fits all. It's whatever works for you in your situation. And I would just trial a couple different recipes. But typically 50-50 mix, good for trees. I tend to go with something like about a 60-40 to 70-30 sand to compost mix for this kind of process right here. The key here is when you're doing soil block is you need to have enough moisture holding material or compost that when you get it wet, it sticks together in a block. Right now it's obviously not going to do that because it's not wet, but I'm going to show you that in just a minute. So to make this mix, I mean, it's a pretty simple process. I'll just show you a really quick little demonstration just so you can kind of get an idea. So this is just a hardware cloth, a welded wire, depending on how you call it in the area you are. But this is a pretty fine one. I think this is about 1/4 inch in inches. I forget what 1/4 inch is in metric, but I'm sure you guys can do a quick conversion. Well, check it out. I was here to join the party over here. That's fun. Hey, bud. So you take your kind of compost mixture, right? You put it on here, you let it sift through. And what that does is you can see on the top here, you get all this excess big stuff that you don't really want in a potting mix, right? And there's some rocks in here too. I'm not sure why, but you're gonna keep all that out of your potting mix. So that's why I use this kind of sieve. So you can do that as much as you need to, basically until you get your right ratio here. And you can build a little bit of like a frame for this, so it's super easy. You can just like have like a 2x4 frame all around this, and then you just throw everything in there and you just move it back and forth like an actual sifter. They use this a lot in making concrete to filter out the sand and everything to make smaller things. So this is pretty easily found pretty much anywhere in the world. And then again, we're going to do the same thing with the sand. I'm going to let that fall through. You can see instantly it's going to catch those bigger rocks here. And you can choose a finer mesh than this if you want finer sand down there. I'm okay with having, oops, I actually threw some of these rocks in here. It's all right. I'm okay with having a little bit of these bigger ones in here, just because I know that for me and my mix, that's not going to matter too much. So it's as simple as that. You can build your own little frame to hold this this wire. You can just use it loose like I do. I just cut it so it fits over my mixing bucket here, and that's good enough for me. It's really just depending on your context, what you have available, how pro you want to be. I've made these before where it's a big sifter and it's a huge thing and it fits over a wheelbarrow. So what you can do is actually do your huge potting mix right over a wheelbarrow, shake it over the wheelbarrow, and then you have a whole wheelbarrow full that you can move wherever you need. So it really depends on how much you're using. For me, I just need to make a little bit of a time. So just having a small piece there and just making it every once in a while when I need to make potting mix, that works for me just fine. So then you would just mix it up. In this case, it's already kind of pre-mixed, but I'll just kind of show you what mixing in what I just did looks like. And there you go. So that is the same as this mix here, like I said earlier. So this is going to give us a basic idea. So now we're going to move on to soil blocking. So soil blocking is using this little tool. So this you do need to buy. You'll have to find a provider for you, and you don't need to use a soil blocker, right? This is just what I'm using. I'm showing you my process just so you can get an idea of how there's various processes of doing this. You can see I also have those plastic pots that most people use. In many places in the world, I just see bags being used to start seeds, or just a tray that you just start the seeds on and you just dig them up. Whatever works for you, works for you. What I like about the seed blockers is, the soil blockers I should say, is that you can actually start the seed, and then when the roots hit the end of the block, they won't grow too far out. They'll get air pruned. So you won't have excess root growth until you actually put them in the soil. It also is a good indication when you see that root, oh, it's time to transplant those in. And what's also nice is because this is made of material that I don't mind being in my soil at all. In fact, I'm perfectly fine with compost and sand being mixed into my soil. Instead of having to pop it out, get all the stuff out and then put it in the ground, I just put the whole block right in the ground and they can just keep growing. So I really like this system. I like that it's kind of modular. All I have to do is have one piece of equipment and then keep it clean over time. So check it out if you are interested in the soil blocker. I think I have a link or something I can leave for you guys if you are interested in checking out where I'm doing. Elliot Coleman, I believe, is the person who made this famous. And these are available at various retailers, at least in the States. I don't know about around the world for all my around the world audiences, but I'm sure you can find something similar. I know this is used in the States and Australia, so if you're anywhere near those two places, you can probably find some sort of provider. All right, so next step is you need to wet this soil mix so it's quite wet. I'm just going to do a little bit of time so I don't over wet it. But the goal here is you want everything to stick together. So pretty much everything has to be pretty moist and mushy. You're kind of thinking about making almost like a sand castle or like a mud castle. I don't know what kind of things you'd make with this kind of stuff, but you want it to be pretty sticky because again, you need to make the block shapes and the block needs to hold its shape. So it does need to be pretty moist. And what's nice about that is as you're starting seeds, you're going to get your mix really moist, and then instead of having to water them all the time, the mix itself is already moist enough that pretty much you don't have to water it for the first few days if it's as long as it doesn't dry out completely, and it holds that moisture, which is really nice. So this is getting close. I think I'm probably gonna need a little bit more water in here. So I'm just getting a little bit more. We'll keep mixing. That's probably gonna be good. Yeah, that looks like a pretty good mix. So you can see if I hold that together, this actually still might not hold its shape too well. You can see there that it's not quite holding its shape. Might need to be a little bit more moist. I actually might need to add a little bit more organic material in here. If there's too much sand, it's going to be harder to hold together, right? So it seems like it might hold that shape. So we're close. I'll put a little bit more in, mix it up, and we'll try to do it. All right, so you can see it's a pretty sticky mix, lots of moisture in there, and that's going to be what we attempt for this first round of soil blocks. With the soil blocker here, The key is you really need to get these really full and compacted. So you might have to be pressing a lot, twisting a lot. It takes a little bit of effort, and then once you kind of get the technique down, then it becomes much easier. But it does take a little bit to get the technique. So what I like to do is just kind of start by trying to fill it up, twisting it a little bit. I just keep adding in. And then before I do anything, I like to look at the bottom here. And I'll usually use like a trowel, and I'll just kind of tap down each of them just to make sure there's no like excess moisture there going on or excess material coming out. And then I'm just going to place it. You flip it right on top here, and then you push out, and there you have it, 4 soil blocks. So let me get a little bit closer so you can kind of see what they look like when they're finished here. I'll get out of this done. So that's what the 4 soil blocks look like. You can see there's 4 of them right next to each other. They each have a little divot. So that's what happens with that the divot at the very end of these soil blocks here. It makes a little divot for the seeds to go into. And so you can basically put the seed right in the middle there, and that's going to be basically your soil block. And you can see it makes 4 at a time. I'm using just an old piece of, I think it's a cabinet door I'm actually using right here. Just something that I can place them on. You can make little trays for them. There is a specific like size tray that they recommend for these, but I just use whatever I have available. In this case, I like anything that has something white that I can write on, or something dark that I can write on with a silver Sharpie, so I can kind of tell when I'm actually putting where. So I'm just going to go through and make more of these soil blocks. I'll do 1 or 2 again in regular motion, and then I'll speed it up just so you can kind of see the process a little bit. So it's kind of like a twisting motion in, filling it. The mix itself is going to seem really sloppy, much sloppier than you would think that you'd be having for a seed mix, and that's kind of what you need to make this work. Again, after I have that, I like to tap in just to make sure there's not any loose space there. Kind of shave off the bottom. And then it's just a slight lift, and then you have your soil block. One more time for you. Again, you kind of have to like gather up material first, put it down, and I like to twist it in, and then I kind of lift it up and over onto here. So if I lift straight up, you can see it'll just fall out like that if I just kind of lift up. So you kind of have to like work around, not lifting straight up, try to get it more soil in there. And then I turn around quickly, make sure that I have a nice pack in there. I do in this case. And now I have 3 blocks. So yeah, there's 12 blocks right there. It took probably all about 1 minute if I weren't explaining it to you. And it's just gonna fill up this tray, and then you have plenty of seed starting material, and then that's where the seeds go, and you go from there. So I'm just gonna finish up doing the rest of this tray real quick. You guys can watch along, and we'll kind of go from there. I'll pick up right when I'm finished. All right, so I didn't add too many more since our last check-in, but you can see here, when you get to the point where you're getting a little bit soupy, like this is pretty much just soup in here, it's probably time to add more of your potting soil and then re-wet the mixture, or add a little bit of extras just to give you that right consistency. But that's the basic idea of this soil blocking. You can see it's a really nice thing. This small little divot is pretty much good for most seeds. Things like cucumbers or squash, where you really want to make sure they're dark to germinate, you might need to cover up. But I find that I just put the seed right in here. I might just close it slightly if it does want some darkness at the seed there. But typically these things hold moisture for quite a while. It really just depends on your mix. If you have more organic material, they'll hold more moisture. Less organic material, they'll hold less moisture. And this will basically help get your seeds started. But what I like about this is because you're using such a moist mixture to start with, right after you make these and you put your seeds in, they're already in a nice moist environment to help get that germination started really quickly and right away. So I really like this process. I like that I don't have to be using the plastic kind of seed starting trays. I just hate those things. They always break on me unless you buy like the really nice ones, and those things get expensive really quickly, you know. So I just really like this practice. It's also kind of fun to make your own and then make those little blocks. I just enjoy that in general. Here's Otto again, wanted to come say hello. while we're working. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah. That's what he does. He likes to just be nearby while I'm working. And of course, a little bit of play while we're going. Just keep him entertained, keep him happy. All right, well, I'm just gonna continue doing this. I'm probably just gonna sign off now because this is a pretty repetitive process and I think you guys get the gist. After I'm done making all the blocks, I'm gonna seed. I have my seeds ready to go right here in this bag. Nice mixture of various seeds. These are some from, I think this is Desde Mi Huerto. There it is right there. So that's a Puerto Rico-based company that sells seeds that grow well here in Puerto Rico. So definitely recommend them if you're in Puerto Rico and you want to check out some local seeds. What's nice about buying local seeds is that all those that they're growing grow here well. They've been adapted to this climate. So it might have a little bit of that extra resistance about the heat or humidity that you wouldn't necessarily get in a seed you'd be getting from up north somewhere. So if you're in the tropics, try to find local seeds, try to find those local seed providers. And if you can, support those local seed providers because they're really important. And then you can also start saving seeds. It's really not that hard to save seeds once you kind of get the basic gist of it down. Seed saving, some things I'm definitely going to cover, but there's so many resources out there. I'll try to leave one linked above for you guys in case you are interested. All right, well, that's it for me today. I'm going to just finish this process up with Otto. We'll just hang out for a little bit. Look at him with his legs out back like that. I love it when he does that. It cracks me up. But yeah, I'm just going to continue this process. I'll just kind of film and you guys can watch the fast motion version of that as the music plays on the outro, and you can just kind of see the end product. But basically, you're going to see more of those on the tray, and it'll end up being hopefully filled with seeds and starting the next generation of food for us back here on the homestead. So really appreciate you guys watching. If you do like what you're seeing and you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel or share some of the videos that you especially like from this channel, because that just helps me get the word out there a lot, and the subscription count basically allows me to reach more people. And just that little simple task from you guys, a little simple step from you guys really helps me out a lot. And I'm just here trying to provide you guys with some value and some and basically just show you what I'm doing to hopefully allow you to either A, get the inspiration to do it, or B, just see how I'm failing so that you guys don't fail that way. That's something that's really important. I don't mind showing you my failures if it's gonna help someone else benefit. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed, and until next time, have a good one.